Well, hello everybody. Yes, that's good. Well, hopefully you can all hear me and I can start tonight's talk. Right, let's close some of these other windows and yeah. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Well, just lift this up a little bit. Yeah, that'll be good. So, welcome to tonight's Dharma talk. And as you can see, I'm inside instead of in the shrine room, in my room. So, I'm coming to you live from in the house tonight. And I've set up this stream on my brand new laptop. So, if you're watching Timata, hi, but I hope it's working. So tonight's talk is on right effort. So it's the sixth path factor. We've been looking at the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the fourth of the Four Noble Truths. And the sixth path factor is right effort, or Samma Vayama. Here, there's a couple of ways of looking at right effort, and we start out with basically when you're doing the practice, what effort should you bring to bear, which is the effort to avoid, the effort to overcome, the effort to develop, and the effort to maintain. So these are the four great efforts. Once again, I'm reading from the Word of the Buddha, and you can see that up here, urbandharma.org/pdf/wordofbuddha.pdf, and this is put together by Jnana Tiloka. In Anguttara Nikaya, chapter 4, number 13, here's Bhante Sujato's translation of that. There are these four right efforts. What for? So the path factor of right effort is broken down into these four subtypes. So right effort is made up of these four right efforts. And what four are those? A mendicant or a meditator, a practitioner, generates enthusiasm, tries, makes an effort, exerts the mind, and strives so that bad, unskillful qualities don't arise. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that bad, unskillful qualities that have arisen are given up. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that skillful qualities arise. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive so that skillful qualities that have arisen remain, are not lost, but increase, mature, and are fulfilled by development. These are the 4 right efforts. So this is what the Blessed One has to say on the topic. What is right effort? And you can see we have these 4 right efforts, but there's kind of 2 phases to it, really. There's the phase of the process of doing this effort, which is you've got to bring up the quality of enthusiasm in yourself. You've got to be interested in doing it to do it. You've got to want to do it. You've got to try. Now, tries, I think that's a good word here because we don't always succeed, yeah? And so it doesn't say here we generate enthusiasm, succeed, make an effort. No, it says we generate enthusiasm, try, we make an effort. We try. It's okay that we fail sometimes, but as long as we keep trying and we try again and again and again, and we make an effort again and again and again, and we exert the mind again and again and again, and we strive, hurry up and carry on. Get on with it. Do it. And what is it we're getting enthusiastic and trying to do? We want to make it so that bad, unskillful qualities don't arise in here. If they're not already there, I want to actually make an effort that they don't arise when they're not already there. It's a very different sort of effort than the effort to do maths or the effort to dig a hole. So if a bad, unskillful quality is not present, then we need to make the effort to stop it coming up. So, for example, if right now, right in this moment, we are not angry, then right effort is the effort to not allow ourselves to become angry. If right now in this moment we are not anxious, we are calm, then right effort is the effort to not allow ourselves to become anxious. So I guess we got to have an understanding of causes and conditions. What sort of is in place just before that anger comes up, or just before that anxiety comes up, or just before that desire comes up, just before that jealousy comes up, whatever it is, that's a bad, unskillful quality, i.e. is causing you problems and causing other people problems. Whatever that bad, unskillful quality is there was a moment when it wasn't there, and then there was another moment where it started coming up. Wasn't it, like sprout? So what was happening just before it sprouted? Just realised my laptop's not actually plugged in. So I need to do something about it. Excuse me. So part of this becoming enthusiastic and trying and making an effort and exerting the mind and striving is noticing that the causes for a bad, unskillful quality to arise are starting to assemble, and that any moment now, if I don't watch out, these causes that are happening right now could cause a bad, unskillful quality to arise, and I perhaps should take some action to avoid that, to prevent that. Now, if I should miss the clues and not notice that the causes and conditions had come together for a bad, unskillful quality to arise, and whoops, there it is. Morning grumpy, afternoon anxiety, evening greed, I don't know, whatever it is that particularly is a problematic state of heart that's arising right now, or that's in place right now. So unskillful qualities that have arisen. So this takes some effort to notice that they're there and to discern that they're a problem. And we generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind and strive so that we can successfully give up that bad, unskillful quality that has arisen, that is present. So you can see here, this is going to take a fair bit of mindfulness to do this. Mindfulness and a little bit of wisdom faculty, like skillfulness in discerning that it's present, that it's a problem, and skillfulness in knowing how to give it up, let it go, how to give up that greed, how to give up that anxiety, that worry, that anger, that fear, that envy, whatever it is, So we generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind and strive so that I can give up any bad, unskillful qualities that have arisen. And this is what the Blessed One himself says, not somebody else. It's not what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying it, but, I'm reading it out here. Now, one of the ways to give up an unskillful quality is to bring up something beautiful, something skillful, something beneficial and helpful and wholesome. And so that brings us to the third right effort, which is to generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind and strive so that skillful, useful, beneficial qualities arise. And you can see that's quite a process, right? When we bring up loving kindness, when we bring up joy, when we bring up compassion, when we bring up gladness, when we bring up equanimity, when we bring up letting go and renunciation, we're not necessarily very good at it at first. In fact, we can try for a while to bring up that kindness when it's not present, and maybe at first we don't necessarily straight away succeed. But, just like any other thing you've got to learn to do, at first, if you can't do it, that's okay. Try again, yeah? And then even when we get better at it, and, we bring up that kindness, yay! Oh, got it. And then we fall over and face plant and find ourselves grumpy. We bring up that gladness, that faith, that confidence in virtue, and then we find that, oops, there I am worrying again. It's okay. Just got to keep trying, that's all. Try and try and try again. Just work at bringing up those unskillful qualities, and eventually you'll get good at it. Eventually you will be able to do it. This is one of those cases where fake it until you make it really, really works. If you can't be actually kind today, pretend to be kind. Act kind, Act like you're actually kind. Fake being kind. Just try to be kind. Do what you think a kind person would do. Say what you think a kind person would say. Try and think what you think a kind person would think. So if you notice that you've got judgmental, cruel thoughts, you think, oh, the Buddha wouldn't think about somebody like that. How would the Buddha think about this person? How would the Bodhisattvas think about this person? How would an Arahant think about this person? How would a saint think? And maybe I can fake it till I make it, and I can start practicing to learn how a saint thinks. Because that's what we are, we're practicing to become more saintly. And saintliness is something that is actually achievable, it's not out of reach. So there's our 4 right efforts. Now what else does now I was talking about earlier about preventing evil, unwholesome mindset states from arising, and one of the ways of doing that is in fact by avoiding things, right? So the effort to avoid is, herein we arouse our will to avoid the arising of evil, unwholesome things that have not yet arisen. So those, as I was speaking before. And he makes efforts, stirs up his energy, exerts his mind and strive, because we don't want those evil, unwholesome things arising. So how do we avoid them? Well, when we perceive a form with the eye, or a sound with the ear, an odour with the nose, a taste with the tongue, a touch with the body, or an object with the mind, we neither adhere to the whole or to its parts. Now, I have come to this, and I can't find, that's not the right reference up there. go through this. I'll have to look up the other translations of this somewhere else. But I thought I had, but I don't have the right ones up there. Anyway, we'll do our best with Jnanataloka's translations here. This is samvara, sense restraint. And the idea here, in terms of he neither adheres to the whole nor to its parts. You can also, I've also seen that said things like he doesn't get bound up with the signs or features. So perhaps doesn't get all hooked up and in the details. What does that look like in a normal experience? Have you ever had the experience where you're so wound up in your emotion, or you're speaking to someone who's so wound up in their emotion and they're so attached to all the details of the story that they can't hear anything else, and it's as if that story is happening right now, and they're really attached to the details and the particulars of the story. This, I feel, is pointing towards that sort of experience, So, for example, we see a sight with the eye, and that sight is interpreted by our mind to be something that should not be happening. This is a terrible, terrible thing that we're seeing, and it shouldn't be happening. And then we have a big emotional response to that sight and get very distressed, and a very large wave of emotion washes up through us. And so in that way we have got very deeply involved with the details of that sight, and such that it's triggered off a whole chain reaction of other psychological and physical processes. Psychological, emotional, physical processes. Cascades of chemicals and stuff going on. Heartbeats and pulse rates changing. And all that is experienced as suffering, isn't it? When we're all upset like that. And we got all upset because we saw something that caused us suffering. We heard something that we didn't like. We had a touch that we didn't like, or a taste that we didn't like, or a smell that we didn't like. And then as a result of that taste or touch or smell or sight or sound or thought or concept or idea, we get all distressed and upset. And so the noble disciple, when practicing deeply, makes the effort to avoid. Don't look at things that upset you. Don't think about things that upset you. Don't listen to things that upset you. Restrain the sight. Do not look at things that upset you, or don't look at things that cause an evil, unwholesome state to arise. So, for example, if looking at somebody else's partner causes lust for that partner to arise, that person to arise in you, the best course of action is to just not look at that person, to avoid looking at that person, to avoid hearing that person's voice, and very much so avoid receiving any touches from that person or being in close enough proximity to be able to smell them. Avoid all input, all sensual contact with that person so that you reduce the triggers. Your buttons don't get pushed. If you don't see them, you don't think, oh, they are attractive to look at. If you don't hear them, you don't think, oh, they are attractive to listen to. If you don't touch them, you don't have electric shocks running through your body. And so in this way, you avoid a state of mind arising that's only going to cause problems for you and potentially for others. And if that state of mind is avoided, then you are not going to have inappropriate thoughts, and that means you're not going to have inappropriate words or inappropriate acts. You really don't want to be acting on that evil, unwholesome desire arising in you. If you should happen to find a particular situation upsetting to such that it causes you to get angry, then avoid that particular situation. Which does mean perhaps don't go to that family dinner if you think you're going to lose your temper and get angry. Probably best not to go. Unless you can think of a way that you won't get angry. If you can think, oh, I can put up with their behaviour and not get angry, then fine, go. But if you think, oh, the way I am today, if they behave the way they normally do, I might get angry, then, why put yourself in proximity to that? So this is about avoiding those triggers that we know push our buttons and cause problems for us. Yeah? And now we're talking about, that's obviously the first of the four right efforts, the effort to avoid it coming up. Then the second of the four right efforts, which is the effort to overcome. This is, oh, oops, the grumpy came up, the worry came up, the desire came up. Whatever it is. So now we have to put in the effort to overcome that, to abandon it, to let it go. Let it go, let it go. Now, I don't know about, is it Elsa? But the cold still bothers me these days. I wish that it didn't. But maybe one day I'll be able to let that go too. So let's all try and let it go together. Let it go, let it go. And how do we do that? We rouse the will to overcome evil or unwholesome things that have already arisen within us. And notice here it doesn't imply that that is who we are. It's just a thing that's arisen within us. Anger has arisen, worry has arisen. It's not I am angry, I am worried, I am lusty. No, lust has arisen, anger has arisen, worry has arisen. These things arise, and now our job is to encourage them to pass away, to have a very short life. Okay. He doesn't retain any thought of sensual lust, ill will, or grief, or any other evil, unwholesome states that may have arisen. He abandons them, dispels them, destroys them, and causes them to disappear. And how do we do that? I mean, that does sound a little bit easier said than done, doesn't it? But one thing I would like to point out here is that the Buddha doesn't mince words here. This translation may be by Ñāṇataloka, but it is the Buddha's own words. These evil, unwholesome states are to be what? Abandoned, dispelled, destroyed. We need to cause them to disappear. This is not wimpy, right? This is your wisdom sword. Slash this stuff away. Mindfulness alone is not enough. We need to be mindfully aware that this stuff is present and that this stuff is hurting us, but you don't just sit there going, oh yes, that's anger. Oh yes, I just punched somebody. Yes, it's my anger, I'll shout if I want to. No, we need to abandon that anger, abandon that worry. No, worry isn't proving that you care. Worrying is borrowing suffering that you may never need to suffer. I might possibly suffer in the future, so let's suffer now as well. And the suffering now as well really happens, and that suffering in the future may or may not happen. I can't see the point really. We can prove that we care in many ways, and worrying is not an effective way to prove that we care. So we need to abandon and destroy and cause those evil, unwholesome states of mind to disappear, to not tolerate them, to not put up with them, to not accept them as okay. So we now get to one of my favourites, which is Majjhima Nikaya 25 methods of expelling evil thoughts, which Ñāṇataloka very nicely concentrates here. This is this one. Sujato's got it here. He's got it, How to Stop Thinking. It's quite a long sutta. So I'll come through Ñāṇataloka's summary first. So if, when regarding a certain object, what does that mean? So that means, or at least I understand that to mean, you are thinking about a particular thing, or without thought but aware of a thing, because sometimes we can just be looking at a thing and aware of it and say looking or listening and not really having a lot of thinky thoughts happening around it, but still we're aware of that object, perhaps a sound or a sight or a touch or a taste, etc., an idea even. So while we are contemplating or regarding, being aware of, or possibly even thinking about a certain thing, as a result of whatever it is we are thinking about, looking at, listening to, touching, etc., evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with greed, hatred, and delusion arise. So notice here that the Blessed One doesn't actually say which particular objects are a problem. He talks about affect and effect. Affect. They affect us in an evil, unwholesome way. So any object, subject, topic, or thing that has an evil, unwholesome affect on our mind and heart, then that's a problem. And what should we do about that problem? Well, number one, we should, by means of this object, gain another wholesome object. What does that mean? Well, let's have a look over here, Bhante Sujato, and number one. So here, 5 things. So if you are focusing on some foundation of meditation, and that gives, so in a way, it's like wrong meditation, if you like. If we're meditating on something, and as a result, that gives rise to bad, unskillful thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion, then instead we should focus on some other foundation of meditation. Focus on something else connected with the skillful. So we focus on some other thing connected with the skillful. So if you find yourself thinking bad thoughts or having lots of, say, big overwhelming negative emotion come up, then we need to intentionally meditate, focus and meditate on some other topic, foundation, object that is connected with the skillful. So what's a foundation or a topic or an object? So we've had object and we've had foundation here. Object of meditation, foundation of meditation. Well, common objects of meditation are things like the breath. So if I'm watching the breath, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, then that is a object of meditation or foundation of meditation. Now the breath's supposed to be neutral, and for most people it is, but for some folks it's actually not. And if when focusing on the breath that results in a panic attack, for example, then that's really not a helpful thing to be focused on, and that's not a useful object for you to meditate on if that is what happens to you. And so you should choose something else to meditate on, at least in that moment. Some of us like to do loving kindness meditation. However, I have also seen someone doing loving kindness meditation and they were focusing on their heart, and then they ended up getting all these really intense heart palpitations, and it was very upsetting for them. So that wasn't a very helpful object for them. So occasionally something we focus on causes us distress, and so we should focus on something else. So technique number 1 for how to stop thinking evil, unwholesome thoughts is to think about something else. If your thoughts are terrible, think about something else. So here's the simile is like a carpenter who'd knock out or extract a large peg with a finer peg. So if you think about two pieces of wood with a hole drilled through both of them, held together by a peg knocked tightly through both holes, and you want to take those two pieces of wood apart, well, you would get a slimmer peg or a finer peg and hammer the previous peg out. So similarly, if the thoughts are or the topic's particularly sticky, we may have to hammer it out, and actually hammer the other thought in. No, I'm going to think about gladness. I'm going to think about compassion. I'm going to think about the breath. Whatever it is that we're going to replace the other evil, unwholesome thought with. Now, suppose we try that, and we tried that, but that evil, unskillful thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion keep coming up. So we tried the first one. We tried to replace the thought, and that didn't work. So then, if that doesn't work, then we should examine the drawbacks of those thoughts. Examine the problem of it, right? So these thoughts are unskillful, they're blameworthy, and they result in suffering. Now, if we could really, truly see the drawbacks of that kind of thinking, of that kind of emotional state, of that kind of mental and emotional process, if we can really understand and see for ourselves the drawbacks, how unskillful, blameworthy, and harmful they are, then in the moment we see directly for ourselves, those bad thoughts are given up and come to an end. And so the person's mind becomes stilled, settles, and unifies. And this is one of my favourite similes. And once again, the Buddha's not at all insipid here. He's quite punchy, I guess. Suppose there was a woman or a man, young, youthful, fond of adornments. Think Kim Kardashian, Justin Timberlake, or somebody like that, I guess. Nicole Kidman. If the corpse of a dog or a snake or a human were hung around their neck, they'd be horrified, repelled, and disgusted. And in the same way, we should examine the drawbacks of those thoughts. The Buddha is drawing a direct parallel here. Evil, unwholesome thoughts are the same as the corpse of a dead dog or a dead human hung around your neck. So we don't want to really drag these corpses of ideas, corpses of anger, corpses of lust around with us. They're just too stinky, really. It's like people go, oh, well, I'm entitled to my anger, or, I can't help being worried. I can't help being anxious. I can't help falling in lust with my partner's best friend. You can actually help it. Doesn't feel like it, but those things are like the corpse. It's like saying, oh, yeah, I'm entitled to my dead dog oozing pus, and you just have to put up with all the stink and the flies. People around you don't want to put up with that stuff. It's just not nice, is it? It's not nice, is it? Oh dear. So that's number 2. But if that doesn't work, contemplating how stinky and horrible and foul they are, and like, yuck, I don't want that greed in me. Yuck, I don't want that anger in me. Yuck, I don't want that doubt in me. Well, then this is the only place where the Buddha says asati. Just forget it. Okay, so you tried to replace them with something else. You tried to see how disgusting they were, and that neither of those work. So we should just try to ignore them and forget about them. Just forget it. Just forget it. Don't think about that. Just ignore it. Okay, yes, you can try and think yourself thought, but I'm just going to ignore you. I'm not taking any notice of that. Yes, you can say that, but I'm not taking any notice of you thought. Shush. Just shush. No, you can have a big bucket of shush and it's all for you. Shush. So just know. I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to think about something else. Now, if that doesn't work, they should focus on stopping the formation of the thoughts. How does Jnana Taloga pay no attention? Should consider the compound nature of the thoughts. Yeah, okay. So watching the thoughts form, stopping the formation as they start, allowing it to run down and get slower, not allowing it to build up speed. So the simile here is, suppose a person was walking quickly. This sounds like changing down gears to me. You know, they didn't have gears in those days. You know, when you're going from fourth gear down to third gear, down to second gear, down to first gear to stop. Suppose there was a person walking quickly and they'd think, why am I walking so quickly? Why don't I slow down? So they'd slow down and they'd think, why am I walking slowly? Why don't I stand still? So they'd stand still and they'd think, why am I standing still? Why don't I sit down? So they'd sit down and they'd think, why am I sitting? Why don't I lie down? So they'd lie down. And so that person would reject successively coarser postures and adopt more subtle ones. So if we apply that to the thought process, and perhaps, you know, your thoughts are racing, so you think, well, why are my thoughts racing so quickly? Why don't I slow down? And so instead of trying to go, no thoughts, then you just go, oh, well, I'll just think a bit more slowly. Slow thinking. And then, why am I thinking slowly? What if I just think one thought at a time? And so I stand still, and then I could just lie down and just allow the thoughts just to wander and just be there. And then eventually those thoughts might lie down. And we can go also with the thought replacement, and when the mind is spinning and the person's walking quickly, so we replace that quick thinking, yada yada yada, with some slower thinking, maybe some gentle chanting. May all beings be well and happy. And then when we've slowed down to gentle chanting, we might move down to one word like Buddho, Buddho, happy, happy. And then we might move down to just breathing in, breathing out, and not having a word. And so that we go from coarser sentences to more subtle ones. However, now he's focusing on stopping the formation of thoughts in that way by getting lessen it by moving down gears, but it still doesn't work. Now, this last one, number 5, personally, I really feel this is like your last ditch. Nothing else will work. The sort of thing when you're like borderline, maybe even borderline psychotic, right? Your mind's completely out of control and nothing else is working. You can't get your mind off it. It's become sort of being a little bit obsessive. For anything less than obsessive, the other 4 techniques probably work quite well enough. But there are times in some people's lives, but not necessarily every person's life, when the mind goes completely berserk and just will not cooperate at all. And in this situation, I believe this is what this last paragraph is. And it's with teeth clenched and tongue pressed up against the roof of the mouth, they should squeeze, squash, and torture mind with mind. No, I will not think that. No. No. Yeah, it's quite tight, really. It's intense. But if you like about to hit somebody, like this, it's that moment. No. No. Yeah? This is the put that gun down moment. No, I am just not going to allow this kind of thinking to ruin my life. Right now, this kind of thinking has got to go. Now, for most good people, this shouldn't come up. This is, advice for Angulimala next time he feels like doing a bit of murdering. No, just don't do it. Yeah? It's just no. So, that is the 5 ways of abandoning the unwholesome. How to do it. Bhavana, the effort to develop, is the effort to develop the beautiful, wholesome state of mind. This leads really into the 7 factors of mindfulness, 7 factors of awakening, and I think is really a topic for another night because it's now 7:25 and I've been talking to you for probably about 50 minutes. So I think at this point I might just begin to wrap up. Right effort, the effort of avoiding, overcoming, developing and maintaining. So just to perhaps quickly go through develop in brief. Developing is the 7 factors of awakening, which is the Bojjhangas, mindfulness, investigation of truths, energy, rapture, tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. And those are the 7 things that we want to develop and bring to perfection. And the effort to maintain and bring to Herein the disciple rouses his will to maintain the wholesome things that have already arisen and not to allow them to disappear, but to bring them to growth, to maturity, and to the full perfection of development. And he makes an effort, stirs up his energy, exerts his mind, and strives. And just to also mention that right effort can include the extreme end of striving. It is also known as right effort to say, though the skin and sinews and bones wither away, though flesh and blood of my body dry up, I shall not give up my efforts till I have attained whatever is attainable by manly perseverance, energy, and endeavour. Well, manly effort, hey? Manly perseverance. I'm sure I can do that too. Okay, at least sometimes. So, thank you for being with me tonight, and I hope this talk has been okay. Good night, and may the triple gem bless and keep you all.